What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division video. We're going to talk about the Division and Ubisoft, so don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let's get straight into it. So it was panic at the disco this time last week because the shares got halted. You couldn't trade Ubisoft stock, and it turns out it was all just down to some accounting errors. The auditors got blamed. These are brand new auditors, well, brand new back in June, 5 months ago, and basically accounting errors here, there and everywhere, and they had to halt the trading of the stock. That's now all rectified, and they released the earnings reports. Now, there are some very key points that I want to take away from this earning report. They released this very nice slideshow here, which is pretty much positive all the way through. But there are some things in the PDF version that I do want to highlight as well. But first of all, let's flip over to the nice fancy H1 26 earnings report for November the 21st. And there's a lot of waffle in here and a lot of numbers and things, you know, look high and great. And you think, oh yeah, this is really good. Digital revenue seems to be doing well across the board. So I assume that is generally well, digital subscriptions, we should say, when we looked into the finer print. So Ubisoft Plus must be doing fairly well, which I'm pretty surprised at, to be honest. I thought most people would kind of delve into Xbox Game Pass, but that has had a price hike. But there is a version of that that does include some Ubisoft stuff as well. So maybe that is included, and maybe that is actually why it's doing pretty well. And also, you know, there's a lot of things about numbers, but they paid off loans early because of the deal that they did with Tencent, where they've, they take earnings now from the Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, I believe, and was it Rainbow Six, part of the business in that whole subsidiary that they created. That's not yet complete and finished yet, but there is a lot of comments that is going in the right direction. So yeah, we kind of scroll down this a little bit, and it says here the Q2 net bookings exceeded expectations. And when you kind of go through this a little bit more, it actually basically says that this year's releases have exceeded expectations. And I'm guessing, you know, that's going to be not only Battle for Brooklyn DLC for Division, but Assassin's Creed did very well, and let's face it, I don't think anybody thought it was going to do very well. It had a very rocky development cycle. You know, the internet loves to mock anything Ubisoft, and the amount of memes that were around. I think once it finally dropped, and actually it was a great game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that obviously, you know, they may have started to turn a corner, who knows, but I guess we will see. Then obviously that's going to help that. Well, I say help, but earnings will be down on last year as well. Don't forget, they actually shut down X-Defiant, and they literally refunded everybody that bought anything in it. So that's a huge amount of loss in revenue, development costs and things like that. So that's going to have swayed last year's earnings a little bit as well. So these numbers looking really high this year are going to have that noticeable push because of the, you know, essential failure of X-Defiant and other releases last year not doing so well. So we're going to carry on scrolling through this because it then talks about the cost reduction program is on track. They're targeting at least 100 million euros that they want to reduce running costs or operating income by. And that's because operating income currently is 120 million over budget. So the target to bring it down by 100 still means that operating income will be over budget by 20 million. But obviously, companies cannot run, you know, at 120 million euros over budget. That is just absolutely wild. So this cost reduction program here is extremely important. And obviously, you can see that that is why they had to raise the revenue with Tencent, you know, the 1.16 billion investment, so that they can kind of do these programs and bring that operating income down. So that is what that all means. That is very important to think about. They're not yet on track, but they've started to get themselves on track because they will then talk about here creating these brand new creative houses that they kind of talked about them a little bit. We haven't seen one of these houses yet, but I'm kind of hoping that Massive just becomes a creative house and essentially they'll get more control over their own IP. Essentially, that will just be the Division's IP. And I'm kind of hoping that is what an example of a creative house will be. They'll be left alone. We won't see them, potentially developing Star Wars games or anything else. They'll just literally be focused on the Division, its health, and making new games and better games for it. Obviously, we're seeing Division Resurgence, a spin-off. We know Division 3's en route. We know we've got the Division 2 Survivors en route, which looks like, from media that we've seen recently, is being treated kind of an offshot, although it will be part of the Division 2. It looks like it's being treated as an add-on, just like Battle for Brooklyn was. So, yeah, I kind of hope that is what the vision for a creative house is, and giving all the guys that have current control now, maybe with their arms tied a little bit behind the back, full control of the Division franchise. And I'm saying that because I have seen what I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of these people. I've been to Massive. That does sway me somewhat, and I've seen how hard these guys work. But I don't necessarily think that if Massive was sold, which I think a lot of people thought was going to happen with the trading being halted, I don't necessarily feel like somebody like Microsoft, for instance, would actually do justice to the Division IP. A lot of stuff that Microsoft have hoovered up, let's face it, they've probably bought the most studios, large and small, over the last few years, and a lot of them studios have now been dissolved and the IP has disappeared into the ether. So being bought necessarily isn't always a good thing, although yes, it could be absolutely fantastic. It could get bought by a house and get 3 times, 4 times, 5 times more money thrown into it and become the biggest and best, greatest thing. I'm just erring on the side of caution when it comes to change. I'm old. I don't like change. So then let's move on down here just a little bit more, where it's going to talk about... What I did notice here is this is the Division Death Watch, the new Netflix series. I've watched it all. It's actually pretty good. I was very impressed with it. I would definitely recommend watching it if you liked anything Splinter Cell back in the day. I just wish they would release a game. But then we've got here what is a very seemingly quiet year for Ubisoft. And considering the amount of games that were on the cards just only a few years ago, we all know Heartland was suffered from what I'm about to talk about. They've cancelled so many games and absolutely reined it in. And I think they realised that they can't release unfinished, they can't release slop, they can't release, games that are not good. And they seriously have reined it in. But it's good to see the Division mentioned in this, because when we mean reined in, Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, The Division, these are going to be the big hitters. Essentially, I think Far Cry will be in there as well. But I think, the games that we've all grown up with, them, every one of us has probably played at least one of them games, or at least another one of them games outside of the Division franchise before. And I'm kind of glad to see that that's the reining in and what's going to happen, especially with the fact that Assassin's Creed was actually pretty good this year. But just on this list here of the H2 lineup, we can see Division Resurgence is on this list, which essentially means it's probably planned to release in the next 3 to 6 months. So that is pretty good to see. And we know that the Avatar one, the third person add-on, is coming in December, and Assassin's Creed Mirage is still getting content. It's recently had a free update as well. I'm not sure if this is actually another update on top of that. So they're pretty crazy. And I've never tried a Rainbow Six Mobile out. I might try it out to see how comparable it is to Resurgence. But yeah, all good news from that as well. And if we flip over to the actual PDF, aside from it saying that Deathwatch did very well, which is great, seeing them do well outside of the great gaming scenario, maybe, just maybe, that Division 2 Netflix show might be raised from the ashes. I mean, man, I was so looking forward to that. Jake Gyllenhaal, big hitter. It could have been so good, but I don't think we'll ever see that. But anyway, yeah, Deathwatch did good. Star Wars Outlaws launch on Switch 2 did well, and I actually played that on Switch. Thank you Ubisoft for providing me with that code, and it absolutely overperformed for me. I've actually played it all the way through on PC. I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't play it excessively on my Switch. I played it for a few hours while I was traveling, and yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic port for a game that technically I didn't think would port very well. So yeah, very impressed. But we see here, The Division 2 continued to benefit from the momentum of the Battle for Brooklyn DLC release in May, as well as regular content updates, continuing to attract new players to the game. Along with rising player numbers, player engagement is up, with a record second quarter in terms of session days since 2020 to 2021. Well, that's kind of understandable, because we're talking all the way back to when we got the New York add-on there. Then that was kind of the last big thing that got given to us in the Division 2. So Warlords of New York obviously was going to have a strong footing at that point, and then a lot happened after that. But it's great to see that we're back at them levels. And the game's performance this semester has already exceeded last year's annual net bookings, which obviously as well, they're going to have sold a lot of Battle for Brooklyn DLCs, especially that it came in at a really good price, lower than some of the vanity that we get in the game. So yeah, it was really, really good to see that. And you can see here, they can just talk about it a little bit more here. The Assassin's Creed franchise exceeded our expectations, confirming its positive momentum and ability to engage players over time. The Division 2 also continued to perform strongly, benefiting from momentum, just what we've just said, that talking about exceeding its and last year's annual bookings. So yeah, and then you can talk about the creative houses just a little bit more there. So let me just check my notes, make sure I've not missed anything out that I wanted to actually talk about. Digital subscriptions, yes, that's good. The creative houses were all good. So yeah, the creative houses are going to be built around the franchises. So you would imagine that hopefully the massive one will be just massive. Which yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then no, that's it. That's everything. So yeah, I think it was a lot of panic on the internet over it, a lot of drama. Everybody loves a little bit of Ubisoft drama. Like I said, I was just worried that, the gaming industry as a whole has just not been doing well. And it's every other day that you wake up, you look on the internet to see that there's redundancies here, there's redundancies there, there's game studios shutting down here, there's game studios shutting down there. And when something like that was happening, I was just like, oh, come on, not Division. They've been through it already. We know that there is people losing jobs in massive, now that development of Avatar and Star Wars has stopped. We saw that they put out that pretty terrible statement not long ago. So, massive are being effective. But as we know right now, Division 3 is up and running and seemingly going from strength to strength. And Division 2 isn't going anywhere in the meantime, while Division 3 is being developed. Anyway, that's going to be it for the video. A bit of a different one, so don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Help me grind out to that 40k sub goal if you're not already subscribed. And if you could drop a like on the video, it really, really does help me out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.